I'm Jackie Doucette, and I'm on a mission to discover exactly what life is like beyond retirement. Join me while I chat with people who've already done it, who've retired to something rather than from something. Let's find out together exactly what's waiting for us when we say goodbye to that 9 to 5. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Beyond Retirement. Today, I'm really excited to be joined by Gary Grewal. And Gary is someone who's reached out to me after listening to one of my podcast episodes. So I'm really excited about that. And he's a financial advisor, or a financial planner, sorry, not a financial advisor necessarily. The author of Financial Fives, a really interesting blog. And he's the owner of a zero waste moving box company, which kind of interests me. So Gary, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Jackie.
And before we go too far into things, I wanted to say that I read that your values include conservation, minimalism, and zero waste. And sounds to me like the moving box company kind of hits on all of those. Is that why you started it?
That's a big reason why I started, Jackie. Yes, I just saw, when I was in college, there were just mounds of cardboard boxes thrown across dumpsters and everything. And I just thought, what a waste. Everybody moves in at the same time. And then these boxes are used for an hour and then they're left to rot. So I had heard about a similar business in Canada. And I just said, well, how can this be difficult? You buy a bunch of boxes, you create a website, you rent them out, and then you get them back. And the nice thing is there's no inventory. So it's not like I'm having to buy and put a lot of money into it. So I figured it could be a nice little side business, and I've enjoyed it so much. It's still around 10 years later.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's a great idea and something that is definitely useful for everybody, I think.
Yeah, it's been, it's interesting because at first there was a lot of hesitation. I started the business in Sacramento, and there was a lot of hesitation from people because I haven't heard of the concept. Renting boxes wasn't something people were familiar with.
Yep.
And over time, you get people who are excited about it, and then they share it with their circles. So we work a lot with home organization experts and relocation experts, and they share their passion with their clients, and that helps the buy-in process as well.
Oh, for sure. And it's definitely something that would grow through word of mouth, probably easier than anything else. It's like, why are you going to buy boxes? Just go here.
Right, exactly. It's just a matter of before, I know when I was helping my parents move, you would go to grocery stores or Barnes and Noble or something. Hey, do you have any boxes left that we can borrow or get? Or you'd go to the recycling center and
Yep.
pick off what you could. And I mean, that's great if you're trying to be cost effective, but a lot of the times those boxes have already been through the ringer, and they're not
Yep.
going to hold up very well if you're putting a bunch of, plates or books and stuff in there. And then what happens when it rains and your boxes are soaked and then they tear? So these boxes have been a lifesaver for a lot of people.
Oh, that's excellent. So I read in one of your blog posts that you were talking about the FIRE movement. And for any of the listeners who don't know what that is, FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. And you were saying in this blog post that you don't agree with the retire early part of it. And that surprised me. I was hoping that you could just talk a little bit about why you're not in that RE camp.
Yeah, I just don't see the purpose of retiring just to retire. I think that we are, as humans, we need to be engaged in what we're doing. And I also feel that we get to enjoy this amazing world that we live in because people want to work. I mean, everyone talks about early retirement and then going on vacations, but think about all the people that support that vacation. People who cook your food and fly your planes and take your luggage. I mean, there's so much that is into that industry. And we're seeing a lot of that right now with the Great Resignation. Wait times are taking longer. You can't get certain things at the grocery store, and we're taking things for granted. Well, a lot of that is to do people aren't willing to work for the same conditions and wages as the past. So I think the retire early part for me doesn't make a lot of sense. I think that we all have a purpose in this world. Even if you decide to go be a park ranger or, work part-time at the gym nearby, you're still doing something and helping the world go around. And you're staying engaged, you're staying social, you're having some type of structure to your day. And I think that's really crucial to having a balanced retirement, and also, helping other people enjoy the world too.
I think that's true. And I guess, so what you're saying so much, or isn't so much, hey, don't retire. It's don't retire and sit on a beach forever.
That's exactly right. I'm not saying if you hate your job, if you don't want to work in corporate America for 50 more years, that's not what I'm saying is you have to stay there. I'm saying find something that brings you joy and that you would like to do. If you've always loved fishing, maybe you go work at, the local fishing spot, in your neighborhood. If you love hiking, there's a lot of land trusts and conservation companies that maybe need somebody as for a public outreach, or they need somebody who's going to send out mailings or work in the office. There's so many ways to stay involved, especially today, that you can find something that you like while also making sure that the things you love to do on your free time are there too.
Right. So that fits in well, those kind of ideas with the themes that I have for the show for this season of freedom, but generosity and that sort of thing. So you're talking a lot about maybe leaving what you're doing, but go out and give back a little bit, find some other way to have a purpose, because that seems to be what a lot of people kind of miss when they quit working.
That's absolutely right. Right. I mean, we have a lot of people that we see that retire and they don't have a purpose anymore. They say, I'm at home, I'm bored, and they go travel and they become a different person, or they just detach from society. And it's kind of this concept of when you retire, you're disposable. We don't need you anymore. Like, get out of the way, make room for the next worker. But that's not really the case. The happiest retirees that I've met are people that have a structure. They work part-time, or they volunteer, or they have certain things that they do. They're on nonprofit boards, they're working on advocacy campaigns, they're volunteering at a school, they're staying engaged. And those are the people who are happier, and they find that they are using their dollars in more effective ways. So they don't think, I need to leave $4 million to my kids. I'm going to leave money to these organizations so that my kids have a better future because of the mission that these organizations do, and I'm supporting that.
I think that's a great idea. Do you have in your business as a financial planner, do you help a lot of people who are kind of on the cusp of retirement and wondering what to do?
I do. In my previous job at a company I worked for, I worked with a lot of people who were nearing retirement and had that concern. And in my role now, I work with people all over the spectrum in age. And I think more so in my writing, I find that people are just wondering, like, well, what's next? When I hit this goal, they haven't thought about what to do next. And I think that's discussed a lot in the FIRE community, right? Is we hit retirement, we hit our number, we hit 25 times our annual expenses. Great, but what's next? What is that life supposed to look like? It's so important to have a vision for that. That's not only going to motivate you to get to that point, but also keep you at that point and keep you happy, so you don't feel like you've lost your sense of purpose.
That's it. And finding that motivation is hard. Have you come up with any inspiration to help people find the motivation that they need?
I've tried a few different things, and I think for me, it's just, where do you spend your time outside of work? I ask them, what do you do on the weekends? What kind of books do you read? What kind of shows do you watch? What kind of documentaries? Where do you volunteer? Those are all questions that I think helping people gain some introspection on what's important to them, help them actually start to do a mental exercise of what that vision looks like.
Yeah, I've asked a lot of people that same kind of range of questions, and I get sort of blank looks every once in a while. It's like, what do I do outside of work? All I do is work. And I was
Exactly.
like, now it's time to do something else.
Yeah, now is your chance to live the life you've always wanted to live.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. So let's talk a little bit about your blog. It's Financial Five. So what do you talk about, or what do you write about?
Yeah, great question. I start to basically, it was all things how to be frugal and financially fit. But I try to focus on those who are like myself. So our tagline is financial freedom for conscious consumers. So minimalism, conservation, the values that are important to me, those are what I try to cater to the industry or the audience, right? I write a lot about why minimalism is important, what it can afford you, how to enjoy the great outdoors in a fiscally responsible way, how to give back. You know, you talk about generosity in a podcast for this season. So how being generous and being philanthropic actually makes you a richer person overall. So I really try to focus on key areas I think my audience would find value in, and enjoying life, being financially secure, and valuing the world and the resources around us and being grateful for them.
That's something that I think is missing a lot of the time, is being grateful for what we have. Everybody's always looking for that next goal and the next thing that they can do or they can have without actually stopping, as the saying goes, to smell the roses.
100%, yes. And that's, I think, of something very missing in our immediate gratification world.
Yeah. I actually, I just got a card in the mail the other day from a friend. She was giving out these cards just random to anybody who asked, and my card says, you can't see it. It says, "I'm grateful," and it was so interesting that was the one that she selected for me, because that's the thing that I'm trying to focus on myself and help other people focus on, is the idea that we're much richer than we think we are.
Exactly, right? It's when we stop to just think about what we're grateful for, even if you've had a bad day, you've lost your job, and let's say you had a really big fight with your spouse, take a step back. Look at the country you live in. Look at your health. You're able to walk, you're able to eat. You don't have to worry about, so many things that people have to worry about in other countries and in different lifestyles. And there's so much generosity, especially in this country, not just of people doing favors for other people, but the work that people devote their lives to just so we can enjoy our own lives. I mean, just something so simple as going on a hike. There were people who, break their backs to make the trails and make them sustainable and make them efficient so that we can enjoy them. I always tell my friends, you don't plant a tree for yourself. You plant a tree for those that come after you, just like the person that came before you.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. That's nice. And I was thinking, as you said, maybe you've lost your job, maybe you've had a fight, your life is still good. And I'm thinking about, the odd listener who's saying, what have I got to be grateful for? It's easy for you to say, hey, you've still got your legs, you've still got your arms, but that's not something to be really flippant about, because, when you stop and think about it, that is something to be grateful for, because there are so many people that, you had a job to lose. That's something to be grateful for. It's just all exactly in how you turn it around.
Exactly. It's all a mental mindset, right?
Yeah.
You might think you're having a bad day, and then you're walking around and you see somebody in a wheelchair and you look at how happy they are and how they're just going about their lives. And you're like, look at me. I get to walk. I get to jump. I get to run. And I'm, sitting in my own pity, and this person's enjoying the sunshine. It's just all perspective.
So I'm maybe going to put you on the spot here.
Sure.
You listened to one of my podcast episodes, and then you reached out to me. Why did you want to come on the show?
I really like I really just like the flow of the show. I think that I don't think your questions are canned. I don't think your questions are for your own personal agenda. And I felt that you can really talk about things that are, a lot of podcasts are financial focused. And for you, it's a lot of things that, just like the title implies, it's beyond retirement. It's not just the money number. It's, what do you do? What are your values? How do you live? What's important? What are you looking for beyond the financial aspects of retirement?
Yeah.
So I felt that there's already so much content around save X amount, invest in index fund, do X, Y, and Z. There's not a conversation too much around all the other aspects that come with financial independence and with retirement. And I think exploring that is really fulfilling.
Oh, well, thank you. That's perfect. That's exactly what I am trying to do. And a few people might pick up an episode of the show and go, hey, but you told me I couldn't be on the show because I'm a financial advisor. And there I am interviewing you because, and you are one, and it's unfortunate, but that's the way, I've said right at the start of my interview process is this
Mm-hmm.
isn't about finances. I don't
Right.
want to speak to a financial advisor who's going to tell me how to save my money. That's not
Yeah,
that's
we
not the
have enough
point.
of those. We have
Yeah.
enough of those, to be honest. And I think what you're doing is we don't have enough of. And I think that's what really compelled me to want to talk to you.
So, well, thank you. So tell me a little bit more about living life as a minimalist. I know conservation and zero waste, things like that all kind of go together. And it's something that I had, I guess, really early in my podcast, talk about minimalism a little bit. And I think it's something that I have to strive for, because I've been watching a show on YouTube that's kind of the opposite extreme with the hoarders, and I'm sort of balancing on a fine line there, trying to get away from that part to be a minimalist, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it's really just I think minimalism is, sometimes people have that concept that they have to be extreme or nothing at all. But that's not the case. Is
Yeah.
you pare it back to a point where you're comfortable, and then you just have some reflection. What else can I do without, right? For me, it's just a matter of, if I had to pack everything I want in my car that's important to me and leave, could I? And if you can't, it's like, well, what else is it for? And the minimalists, they had a new book come out, Love People, Use Things, because the opposite never works. And that saying is perfect. You know, we talk about impressing people we don't like with money we don't have for things we don't need. And it's just, that's the encompassing aspect of it, is as long as you have things that you use regularly or that bring you value, you start to appreciate things that bring you joy that you don't need materially. I mean, since I started adapting that mindset, I get happy just sitting in a park bench and reading a book, or just chatting with a friend on FaceTime. It's just, it sounds cliche, but really, as humans, that's where we find connection and fulfillment. It's not shopping for the sake of shopping on a sunny Saturday.
Yeah,
It's being grateful for the nature around us and the people around us and our health and all the great things that, we have time to reflect upon.
I think that's true. And I think also as you get into retirement and beyond, it's something that you really can make, what's the word I want? It's something that you can really take advantage of, is
Hmm.
dropping back, minimalizing a little bit, because all of the things that you're looking at all around you aren't things that you need. That's, someone on a Zoom call I was on this morning said he went away. He said, I went way up north. He meant into Canada, and
Oh,
for 3 weeks or so. And he said he checked his Amazon account, and there weren't any purchases in that 3 weeks. And he says, and then he gets home, and the first thing he does is go online to buy something. And he stopped and
yeah.
said, hey, I made it through 3 weeks without all this stuff. How come all of a sudden I have to buy again? And that, I think, is something that we need to start thinking about a little more at every stage, but especially, as you get older, you don't need to keep amassing things.
Right. It's just a matter of, like, people feel like they need to keep it because of the sentimental value. But if it's really a sentimental value, the memory should be enough. Or even just a picture. At the end of life, that's all you really have, is the memories. And a good life is a life fulfilled with memories, not things.
Yeah, I've had a couple of people say that to me before. It's like, why do you keep that? And I said, well, for sentimental reasons. So how come it's in a box and not out on a shelf?
Exactly.
I can't answer that question.
I can't either most of the time, but I'm paring down the things that they can say that to. So,
Yeah, and I think that's interesting. And I think that's something that someone can do as they move on into the next stage. I think it's a really useful kind of pastime to sit down and pick something up and say, do I use it? Have I used it? Am I going to use it again? And,
exactly.
drop it off into the garbage can.
Yep, exactly. You can toss it, you can recycle it, you can donate it, you can give it to family and friends.
Yeah,
You'd be surprised how many people sometimes in your circle who may need a nook or some bar stools or some extra books or a bookshelf in around your house. They'll gladly take it off your hands. And
yeah,
now you're doing two things. You're paring down your belongings, and you're helping conserve natural resources, because they're not supplying demand for a brand new bookshelf.
right.
You're transitioning ownership over. So you're practicing that sustainability aspect as well.
Oh, that's excellent. I can hardly wait for summertime so I can have a yard sale.
Same here.
So if you were going to give the listeners some words of wisdom about how to transition into their retirement or post-retirement life, what would you tell them?
I would say it just goes back to, think about where you want to spend where have you wanted to spend your time, but haven't been able to, right? If you think about if you were forced to take a day off, the company's closing for a day, go have fun, what would you do? What would you do with your time? That's not cleaning the house, that's not paying the bills, that's not, going and running errands or getting groceries. What would you truly do with a day of free time? And I think the pandemic, one of the beautiful things a lot of people have mentioned is it forced people to just think back and big picture. What does my life mean? What do I want to do? Who do I want to spend it with? And I think the closer you get to those questions, the easier it's going to become to decide how you spend your time. And then that can navigate how you leverage your resources to make that into a reality.
Nice. Focusing on the things that are important and how you really want to spend your time. That's perfect. So going back to your blog, why did you call it Financial Fives?
Oh, good question. So I had come up with, I started to read a lot of financial books, after college. And I just felt a lot of them were great, but there were also a lot of fluff, and I'm someone who's kind of get to the point, like, tell me what I need to know. And I understand there's context around it a lot of the time, but sometimes there's just so many stories and backstories. And I'm just like, tell me what I should do about this. So I started coming up with ideas like, oh, I can save money by doing this when I buy a car, or this when I rent an apartment, or this at the grocery store. So I came up with the financial fives because it's like, a lot of the things in life, a lot of the subjects with money, there's usually 3 to 5 tips that can help you on that. Not one, not two, you probably need 3 to 5. So my book that I wrote, Financial Fives, it's actually 65 chapters with 5 tips each. So
Oh,
each chapter is like 5 ways to save money on buying a car, 5 ways to save money on your wedding, 5 questions to ask your realtor. So there's 5 topics in there, and that's where the financial fives come about.
cool. So is there anything that you would like to say that we haven't touched on yet?
I would just like to say that, people worry a lot, and they want to be prepared for retirement, the financial aspects. But again, if you look closer at where your values are and where you align, and if you even thought like, hey, if I have food, water, shelter, what else do I need? Where are you really finding value in your life? And I think one thing I would like to say is you talk about generosity here. If you have never volunteered in the past or had the time to, what better time than retirement? Volunteer as much as you can. You'll find what you like, what drives you, what's passionate. It won't feel like work. There's a lot of great resources online, maybe your city council, your commission, nonprofits based in your area. Maybe you want to even just go walk around and clean up the park. There's a gentleman in our community. Every day he walks around and just has a grabber and a trash bag just because he likes to stay active, and he was recently awarded with a $1,000 gift card from a local company because they were so happy with what he was helping with the community. And
Wow.
that's something he wasn't asking for. He's just doing it because he cares. And it's times like that where you'll find that people will reward you when you're generous. Not that you should go into, retirement expecting or volunteering expecting that. But I would just say volunteering can help you open your eyes to what's really important and where you really want to spend your time and help you look at your life in the big picture.
Perfect. I think that's a great way to end, actually. Gives everybody a
Great.
nice little spot to start. Looking at the big picture and figuring out what's important to you.
100%. Yeah.
So we talked about your blog, and the blog's site is financialfives.com.
Yes.
And I will make sure that that's in the show notes. And you've got a book, you said, the same title.
Yep.
And I
Yes.
assume it's
Financial
available
Fives.
anywhere.
It is. Yep. We are Amazon or the website. You can get it at your local library, even in some cases. So yes.
Perfect. Thanks very much for being with me, Gary. I've really enjoyed it. I'm really glad you reached out to me because this is a conversation that I wasn't expecting to have with a financial planner. I think it's been excellent.
Yeah, likewise, Jackie. I appreciate the work that you're doing. I think where you focus the subjects is so crucial, and we need more of that. So thank you for being open-minded to having a financial planner on your show. And these are topics that are not talked about enough. So thank you for bringing it forward.
Have a great day.
Thanks, you too, Jackie. Bye-bye.
And that's it for this episode of Beyond Retirement. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed it. Are you ready to start rocking your retirement? Head on over to www.beyondretirement.ca/rocking it and sign up to plan out your own roadmap for retirement. Don't wait till it's too late.